one of the most important things that you can do now is to be consistent in what you're doing and find your own motivation. These small steps every day is extremely important. So don't compare yourself to others. You have your own pace.
This is the You Can Learn Chinese podcast. For everyone who's trying to learn Chinese or reaching for the next level, you came to the right place. I'm your host, Jared Turner. And pride, commitment, teamwork, words employers use to try to get you to work for free. My co-host is John Patterson, who's out for this episode, and he dreams of a better tomorrow where chickens can cross the road without being questioned about their motives. We've got an interview today with Anna Tulupova. Let's get to it.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the invitation. And yes, my name is Anastasia, and I'm from Ukraine. Now I live in Sweden. And actually, I've been learning Chinese for many years, and now I teach Chinese. And actually, I started from translating because my dream was become a translator. Yes, and now I just want to share my story, my language journey with others and help others to avoid maybe my mistakes and make it easier.
Oh, great. Okay, well, this is, I'm excited to hear your story. So, all right, Anastasia, why did you start learning Chinese?
It was at the age of 14 or 15, actually. Yes, and I felt like I was a goal-oriented person, and I was fond of something really interesting and challenging at the same time. And I thought that Chinese was a perfect match for me, and I tried to learn it. And so I liked it. And
that time I want to hear
thought,
a little bit about you said, okay, it's interesting to me. So
yes,
you could have learned a lot of different languages. You could have,
yes.
I mean, and you're in Ukraine, right? So there's all the Slavic languages. There's lots of other, languages you could have learned. Why Chinese?
So just because it was the hardest language in the world, yes, and that time I wanted to be cool. Yes, I wanted to be proud that I mastered the hardest language in the world, and actually I wanted to be a translator. And yes, I fulfilled my dream. So I've become a translator, and I worked at Chinese.
How did you start learning, though? I mean, and this is something I've encountered with a lot of other, Chinese learners who might not be from the West per se, right? Because I know that there's not a lot of Chinese learning content that is for Ukrainian or speakers, right? So, how did you even start learning Chinese?
So it was an easy thing because, my parents invited the teacher for me. Yeah, so I just tried to touch Chinese and how it sounds, how I can read it, so how I can cope with it. Yes, and then I just got interested in it. Yes,
so your parents sound like they're really supportive.
Yes, actually.
So they got you a tutor, a Chinese tutor. This is a Chinese person there in Ukraine.
No, not a Chinese person. So it was a Ukrainian girl, that was studying Chinese at Ukrainian university and in China as well. Yes, so just like me. No, yes, so it's quite easy. And talking about the materials, so we are learning English at school, so it's just easy for us when the books are in Chinese and English. Yes, so no problem. Yes.
How did this start, though? So your parents found this girl who's studying Chinese at university and was it online, or did it bring you to your house, or did you go there? I mean, what were these lessons like? How did it start for you?
So I don't remember. Maybe it was 2013 or 2014, so it was not so popular to have online classes. So that's why she came to me to my place and taught me Chinese. And I remember that it was twice per week. Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
yes, so and it was around 2 or 3 years, and then I just entered the university and continued there at the university.
What was that like learning? I mean, at that early age, and you're young, right? You're
Mhm.
in I guess in the West, high school, right? Which we would say.
Yes.
But what was that like? And I know it's a little so different learning from a native speaker versus someone who's a non-native speaker of the language. So maybe you could talk about that.
I liked it how she explained it to me. Yes, so everything was clear, and that time she taught me to use associations, and yes, it worked for me perfectly. And I found out that my visual memory works good as well. Yes, so I can cope with all those characters. Yes, so and that time maybe the biggest problem was to understand this grammar structure and to try to maybe translate it into Ukrainian. It was like a bit messy for me. Yes, so I
Mm-hmm.
can understand separate words, yes, but I can't really translate it into Ukrainian, like into the whole sentence, like it should sound in our language. And that time I realized that maybe reading was a bit weak point for me. Yes, but maybe from so other aspects were okay. And I think that time I didn't pay enough attention to speaking. Yes, so
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe there should be more speaking practice that time.
Okay. Well, why did you keep going? I mean, it sounds like, I mean, you didn't have to keep learning the language. This was something you were choosing to do. Sounds
Yes.
like your parents were supportive, right? But why did you decide, hey, I'm going to, and I know there was probably some hard things. It sounds like, though, you picked up the language maybe easier than most might, right? But why did you, what really kind of kept you learning the language?
So actually, my dream and maybe so believe that so Chinese can change my life, help me with my career, maybe open some doors like career doors. Yes, so can give me some unforgettable experience as well. Yes, so that time I had really a good, no, not a good, yes, I had a dream of becoming a translator. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like maybe I'm gifted at learning languages. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
so I felt like I'm good at it. And that's why I studied hard. So this language,
Yeah.
Chinese, yes, and
I want to hear a little more about that. So, like, okay, I I have talked to teachers all over the
yes,
world, and something
yeah.
I've talked to them about because okay, well, here's a common narrative in schools and education around the world is they say, study hard so you can get a good job, and they'll say study Chinese so you can get a good job, you can get a good career. But the reality is that very few kids at that age are thinking about their career, right? Well, I mean, you're thinking about it, but that's not like a huge driver. What was it about translating though for you? What was it about being an interpreter or a translator? What was that was appealing to you? And why do you think that's something that even at a young age you were really focusing on your career?
It's a good question. I thought that it's just a good job. Yes, so I can maybe work at some international companies. I can get job, good salary, maybe status. So I don't know. And at the same time, it was interesting for me just to participate in this communication. So I can't say actually that it is participation, but maybe at my teenage, I thought that it was like that. But actually, when I started doing it, so I understood that it wasn't what I really need. It wasn't the thing that I wanted to do the whole life.
What's different then? What was versus your dream versus the reality? What was different for you?
In my dreams, it could be more exciting, maybe. Yes, yeah. But in reality, so it was like I was a bridge between two sides, between two people. Yes, and I was helping them to transmit the information. And at that time, I understood that I am like this third party, and I don't want to be this third party. So I want to participate in this cooperation, in this process. So maybe it's just my character. So I want to be a participant in the process, not be I don't know, like a helper. Yes. So yeah. So I just realized that it's not what I want to do.
Okay, that's interesting. I can understand that. It's more, maybe if I could put it in my words, might be like you're not making any of the decisions. You're not actively involved in like maybe the deal or the negotiations. You're just a helper, right? You're assistant, right?
Yes. Yes.
Versus you want to be more on making the decisions and making things happen, right?
Yeah, more active maybe. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a great perspective. Well, what when you're starting to learn Chinese in your, like say, you're in your teenage years, you're still in school. What would any of your friends saying about this, or what did other people think about when you were starting to learn Chinese like this?
So I think that they were surprised. Yes, because it sounded a bit unusual. Yes, but at the same time, I think that they were just okay. Yes, so I understand that you are a gifted girl. So yeah, go on. Yeah, so it wasn't like. How to say it? It didn't sound like a strange thing that I chose to do it. Yeah, so it just was normal because they knew that I like learning languages, so maybe it was the right match for me. Yes, so just yeah. But that time it sounded like something strange. Yeah, so a bit strange choice of the language, but it was like normal that I did it.
That's interesting. So, well, tell me then now what happened. You went to college, you went to university, and you started learning Chinese there. What was that experience like?
I can say that I was really motivated at that time because so I finally was absorbed with a lot of Chinese, yes, information in Chinese, yes, grammar, speaking, reading, yes, and I was surrounded with it, and I liked it. Yes, sometimes I was too tired, but I understood that so it's a hard process and it demands my effort and maybe some sleepless nights. Yes, talking about my university years, so I'm grateful to my teachers that taught me in Ukraine, but I think the time we paid more attention to some grammar structures, and anyways, they were preparing us to become translators and interpreters. And yes, so it's important to understand, like to get the sentence quickly and try to interpret into your own language. Yes, so we were paying attention to this. And actually, so when I came to China the first time, so I understood that I can't speak, actually. Yes, and it was my biggest problem. Yes.
Well, so, maybe you could talk about this a little bit, because I want to hear about your experience going to China. But when we first started talking, you had mentioned, hey, I there's mistakes or you made along the way, or there was maybe some things ways you learned that weren't the best. Maybe you could talk about that, and because it seems like you're alluding to that. Maybe like what were some of the good things in the ways that you were learning some Chinese at university, and what were some of the ways that now you realize maybe weren't the best ways or weren't as effective?
it's really important to understand the grammar, so like the technical part of the language. Yes, so and that time I think that I learned this grammar structured fast, and yeah, so it helped me just to how to say it. So maybe make the structure in my head. Yes, so just add some logic to the language. Yes, and we read a lot, we translated a lot, and yes, so we learned by heart a lot, and I think it's a good method as well, because so when you are learning some ready sentences, so they just come automatically, yes, when you need them. Yes, and what would I add to this process? Maybe it would be more speaking practice. Yes, because yes, language. We need language actually to communicate with each other. Yes, so to express our opinions, thoughts, and yes, so maybe more this speaking practice. Yes.
Yeah, kind of what you're describing, it sounds to me, it's a very traditional method, the grammar translation method, where focus on grammar and focus on translation. I know that's kind of a traditional method. Usually that's not something we advocate, but it sounds interesting that, in a translation and interpreter program, maybe that is a little bit more beneficial, because you're focusing on translating, right? And understanding maybe the diverse ways that grammar can be employed in different ways can be helpful.
Yes, but when you are doing interpreting, yes, so you need speaking, yes, and when you are interpreting, for example, from Ukrainian into Chinese, or from so I don't know, English into Chinese, so you just need to need these words come to your brain immediately, so right now. So that's why I think that speaking practice and just be confident how it sounds is really important. Yes, so and so just have this active vocabulary, not passive vocabulary. So it's extremely important, and I think that through speaking practice, so you can just make active passive vocabulary, so just to make your passive vocabulary your active vocabulary, actually.
That's interesting. I want to hear a little more from your perspective on this. And I'll just, for anyone watching or listening, that passive vocabulary, that's those instances where you're hearing the words and you can understand it, it's being said, but you don't know it well enough to actually use that word yourself in speaking. So maybe you talk about this a little bit, like in that, because I get it in the active passive vocabulary and interpreting, like, and I guess what I want to get at here from your perspective of what's this like for you in translating from Ukrainian to Chinese versus from Chinese to Ukrainian? Because I know that a lot of, some translators I've talked to, they're obviously, you're going to probably be better at listening in Chinese and interpreting into your native language, as opposed to going the other way around. But maybe you could talk about the difference of doing that the other ways. And I also recognize we're talking about translation versus simultaneous interpretation. These are two different things. So I don't want to mix them up too much, but maybe you could talk about this a little bit.
So I think that translating or interpreting into Chinese was a bit harder for me. Yes, because so I should be concentrated on how it should sound for native speakers. Yes, and again, so if I don't know how it sounds, or if I'm not sure if it sounds right or wrong, so it's not good. Yes, so I should be confident that I'm interpreting it or translating it in the right way. Yes, but if I'm translating or interpreting into my native language, so it's easier for me because I know how it should sound. Yes, and now I can admit that if I will be translating or interpreting it now, so it would be easier for me because I have enough speaking practice and so on and so forth. So I'm sure, but that time, no. So it sounded like a hard task for me.
I can understand that, that's got to be harder to go from
Yes.
Ukrainian to Chinese or English to Chinese.
Yes.
A little more challenging that way. Okay, maybe talk then a little bit more about this experience you were getting at about your going to China. What was this like that first time? And maybe you could talk about the circumstances. Like, was this a study abroad, or was it just a trip you decided to go on? Or maybe you could talk about that.
So I got a Confucius Institute scholarship and just went to the south of China and studied Chinese there.
Where were you at?
Haikou.
Haikou. Actually, I've heard of Haikou. Where's it at though? I don't remember.
Haikou, Hainan. Hainan, island.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So you're in Hainan. Okay, all right. I'm like, that's what I've heard of. There's Sanya, that's the most popular spot there, but it's Haikou. I'm like, I know, I've heard of that place. Okay, so you're down in Sanya, and for anyone listening, that's like the Hawaii, of China. It's like tropical, right? It's like sandy beaches, a big popular vacation spot. And I know not every place is going to be like that, on Hainan. But okay, what was this like? And I know this is, you got to tell me about this. I mean, you're studying Chinese in Ukraine for many, many years, but now you're finally going to China.
Not so many years, actually. So just 1 year and a half. And then I got a scholarship. Yeah, so actually it was the second year at the university. And so I just got this scholarship and continued to study in China. It was a bit unusual, and it took me time to just adjust to the local climate somehow. And yes, because everything was different. Yes, and so
what were some of these biggest differences for you? Like, what were some of the hardest things for you to adjust to?
I think it was climate, the first one, and maybe the second thing, it was like crowded streets. Yes, so I needed maybe 1 week, yes, to realize, yes, so I'm just living here, yes, and it's okay, it's normal, just crowd everywhere, yes, but it's okay, it's China.
Is it one of these things you're on the bus and it's hot and you're like, you're too close to me, like type of a thing, or what was it?
Yes, and maybe even at the streets as well. So there were just so many crowds there, and especially when Chinese students had like lunch break. Yeah, so they were heading to the canteen, and then they were heading to the campus, or I don't know, so their classrooms. Yes, so just a lot of crowds everywhere. Yes.
Well, so. What was this like speaking Chinese though in China, like with natives? I mean, I'll just say that, I know a lot of people that come in and like, oh, I've been studying for a while. I can do this. And they get into China, like, I have no idea what's going on. But I don't know if that was your experience or what.
It was my experience as well. Yes, 100%. Yes. So first of all, I understood that I'm not at the right place because local dialect is not isn't so close to the standards. So it's too far away. But okay. Yes. So I just. I made friends with some students from northern part of China or central part of China, so no problem. Yes, but the biggest problem for me was speaking. So maybe, so I don't know how it is for other students. So I understood, no, it's just I had illusion. So at that time I had a level of Chinese, maybe HSK 3 or more. So I've passed HSK 3 already, and I had maybe something like close to HSK 4. And I was sure that I'm cool enough to have a conversation with the real Chinese, but it wasn't so. Yes, because I realized that they are talking too quickly. Yes, and so I can get only some separate words from the context, and so it was extremely challenging for me. Yes, and that time and that time I couldn't even form the sentences in my head. So it took me time, maybe 5 seconds or 7 seconds. And it's not so good when it's a conversation between two persons. Yes, so it's too long.
It's like slow internet, you click on the page and it takes 10 seconds to reload. You just kind of go somewhere else, right?
So maybe that time I was just overthinking. So I thought about how I would sound, or how I would sound from this grammar perspective. Yes, and so I should be good at grammar, pronunciation, so on and so forth, and maybe that took time as well. So just to think about all those aspects. Maybe if I took it easier, maybe it could be a bit faster. But at the time, yes. So I wanted everything to be perfect.
So tell me, what were you said if you took it easier, maybe it would have gone better. Like, what do you mean by that?
Maybe I should not be so concentrated on my mistakes, because anyway they were demotivating me when I was concentrated on my faults, and so I had lack of confidence. Yes, so it's not the right thing to be concentrated on. Yes, so I think so. A good recommendation is just to speak, yes, and don't think about mistakes. Yes, so it's just normal that you have some mistakes. So it's natural, but don't concentrate on it.
Well, how did you change that mindset of, where you were, I guess we might say perfectionist, maybe you want it to be perfect, right?
Yes.
And you're afraid of making that mistake. And so you don't want to look dumb. You don't want to look stupid. Like, how did you get out of that mindset of just saying, hey, it's okay if I make a mistake, or breaking out of that mindset that allows you to progress further?
So again, I think that I was concentrated on my dream, so to become a translator, and so I understood that to become a good translator, to become a professional, I should go through it. Yes, so I just have to make as many mistakes as I can make. Yes, and then understand how to speak correctly or to write correctly. Yes, just this way. And actually, so I had a few thoughts that maybe I can quit. Yes, so it's not the right thing for me. Yes, and so my parents were talking to me. So again, so they were supportive, but at the same time, so they said, if you want, so we can think about maybe buying a ticket for you to go home and so on and so forth. But at that time I decided no, so I should try to continue with it. Yes.
Why did you decide to keep going? Because this is a great to hear from you, Anastasia. So because a lot of people hit that point where sometimes, hey, maybe this is too hard, and maybe I can't do this, or maybe this is the wrong decision. And in your parents, I mean, sounds like they were connected to you, understanding you were having a very difficult time. but what was it that helped you to change your mind or decide, okay, I'm going to stay with this, even if it's hard?
So I understand that if it is hard for me, so it's the growing point, as a point of growth here, and I should continue with it. And I didn't want to give up, actually. So because if that time I came back to Ukraine, so it would mean that I didn't cope with it. Yes. So yes. So maybe it would sound so for other people, but first of all, it would sound for me so, and I didn't want to feel like I gave up. Yes, so yes, so maybe how to say, this feeling of giving up was even worse than those difficulties and maybe the shame of making mistakes. Yes, so at the time I decided I should give myself another try and go on with mastering Chinese.
So how did this second try work out for you? What did you do differently and how did it go for you?
I understood that again, speaking is too hard for me, and but I couldn't let it go. Yeah, so I needed to do something with it, and that time actually. I joined the group that was preparing to HSK 5. Yes, but that time again, so my level of Chinese was around 4. But again, so I just wanted to use this time. So when I am in China, maybe to the fullest and try to make my best. And that time, actually, I couldn't hardly understand what my Chinese teacher is saying to me. But I just tried my best. And there were a few moments when I was even laughed by my classmates because I mispronounced some words. So again, just because I could not pronounce it automatically. So at that time, I wanted to say hygiene, it's Weishan, but in my head, I just called about Weishan Jian. It means toilet. Yes. So bathroom. Yeah. So yeah, actually, I was embarrassed and disappointed, and I wanted to cry actually that time because I was laughed at. Yes, wow. It was a shame. Yes, but again, so I understood it's just okay. So I need more speaking practice, and at that time I made some Chinese friends, and every evening we were walking around the stadium. Yes, and so I had the opportunity to tell same stories to different people. Yes, and same. So maybe how many people I have in my family, and which hobbies I have, and so on and so forth. Which food I prefer to eat. Yes, and that time I understood that these structures and words and sentences, so they stuck in my head, and I can feel more confidence when I'm speaking, and I can understand them better. And it took me maybe 2 months. Yes, around 2 months. Yes, and then so I think that
I'll put for anyone listening that this I'd never thought about this, but this makes a lot of sense. You go into the stadium, and for anyone listening who've never been in China, these stadiums where it's a university stadium, there's just always people that show up, right? And they're just walk around the track. Some people are jogging, but there's like hundreds, right? At night, just walking around. They're just, that's what they're doing. And so I had never thought about that as an excellent idea. If you're in China, you can go to any one of those stadiums and you just go walking, and you're just going to be at the same pace with some other old people or young people or whomever, right? And you can just start talking to them, and they're always going to be curious about you, right? And I know there's also something that can be therapeutic too when you're walking, some physical exercise, right?
Yes.
It just kind of, changes your brain a little bit. It feels like, I don't know, you get a little more active, right? That sounds. This sounds like it was a real breakthrough time for you, where you started breaking through.
Again, so it's like kind of relaxation. Yes, so you're walking around, and yes, so it was a good experience. That time, so it worked for me, and I understood that I can get. So finally, I started to get what my Chinese teacher is saying at class. Yes, and yes, maybe. So maybe in 2 months, so I passed HSK5. Yes,
wow,
so it's
that's amazing.
I think that those maybe techniques, so worked for me. Yes, so and that time I understood that I was really proud of myself that I didn't quit at the beginning. Yes, so it was a good lesson for me.
Wow, Anastasia, that's a beautiful story. Because I can see that when you went to Hainan down there, like you're dealing with culture shock, climate shock, obviously.
Yes.
There's fashion shock too, right? Because I imagine you had a lot of warmer clothes and you're now in the tropical climate.
Yes.
You can't understand the language. You're not doing well in class. Your classmates are laughing at you. You're about ready to give up. You're like, maybe this isn't going to work out for me, but you decide to give it another try. And I know one of the things that we really need is when it comes to that point where it's like, I feel like I'm not making progress. I can't understand what's going on. I can't even understand what my teacher's saying, right? Really, you can still learn the language. It just need more exposure to the language, more comprehensible input. And I love that story of you just walking around the track, talking to people, because you kept being able to talk about things that you knew what you could talk about, like your family, where you're from, what your country's like, all that type of stuff. And it's repetitive. You just got to get enough exposure to that. And then you were able to take that now to your classroom and okay, it's starting to make sense.
Actually, so I think I had a good this language journey, and I think I can share it with others. Yes, maybe with those who need it. Yes, and if they are in the same situation now that I was in for, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago or 6 years ago. Yes, so just give yourself another try and believe that one day it will click. Yes, but only if you are consistent and you are doing it regularly. And yes, so just doing these small steps every day.
Fast forwarding now to from that experience to kind of what you're doing now. Why did you choose then to go on? And it sounds like you did do interpretation, and now you're doing some teaching, right? You're doing more like English, teaching Chinese. So why did you decide, hey, teaching Chinese? This is what I'm interested in doing.
Actually, I gave myself another try. Yes. So I understood that I was a bit disappointed at translation and interpreting. So I understood that it wasn't the right match for me. And yes, but I didn't want to just leave Chinese because so I put so much effort in it. Yes, and I really like it. So and I knew that so my Chinese is at good level. So I decided to try to share my knowledge with others, and yes, so, and it worked. And yes, so I'm happy that I can help others. And so again, so some people are in China, so they don't understand something, or they can't cope with maybe those explanations in Chinese. Yes, so they maybe need to how to say, this perspective of a non-Chinese teacher. Yes, some of them are interested in Chinese culture. Some of them want to work with China or work with Chinese. Yes, so I'm happy that I can share with so my knowledge and my experience with them. Yes, and maybe help them to avoid some mistakes that I did, and maybe introduce them more effective methods to learn this language.
So, what are some things that you're doing now, considering that you're now a Chinese teacher? What are some things
Yes.
that you're doing now that are different than from the way you learned?
I think that now we are concentrating on speaking more. And again, so for example, if we have learned only 2 or 3 new words today, so we just try to make some sentences with them and try to adjust the context to our own situations. Yeah, so how we can use these words in our life. More listening and more conversations. Yes, and again, so I think that this language learning process is built on the repetition. Yes, and so I think that it's maybe the thing that you do in your books in Mandarin Companion, because the words, yes, so they appear many times, but in different contexts. Yes, so and even if you don't pay attention to these words, but they can stuck in your mind because they have appeared, yes, maybe 10 times or 20 times. Yes, so it's good. So repetition again. Yes, so but speaking from the day one is a must. So I think that it's a key.
Well, that's really neat. That and it's wonderful. I think for you as a Chinese learner who's learned Chinese as a second language, it's always offer a different perspective that you're able to offer than native speaker Chinese teachers who are native speakers. Now, I think they're both important. Don't get me wrong, but I find that there's just a different perspective like that you can offer as a second language learner.
I'm very grateful to all teachers that I had in my life. So to my Ukrainian teachers as well, the Chinese teachers. Yes, so they, I don't know, maybe they have made this like picture more structured in my head. Yes, so it's great.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who is learning Chinese right now?
One of the most important things that you can do now is to be consistent in what you're doing and find your own motivation. So find something that gives you joy, because for some people it can be maybe watching some cooking videos because they are fond of cooking. Then for some other people it's reading because they like reading. So for me that time it was communication with Chinese, so I liked it. Yes, I like sharing my stories and so on and so forth. So it was my motivation. So just find something that you are really like about this language learning process, and yes, so and try to do it regularly. So these small steps every day is extremely important. So this consistency is important, I think, everywhere, but especially in this language learning journey. Yes, and don't compare yourself to others because you have your own pace.
Oh, that is really good advice. Well, Anastasia, I think it's wonderful to hear your story, and I appreciate you taking the time to share this with everybody. If people they want to find out a little bit more about you, where can they go?
They can go to my Instagram page. Yes, so I try to make it more interesting and just to more helpful. Yes, so for others, and yes, so. how to
We'll
say
put a
it.
link to that in the show notes, but what is your Instagram page?
Yes, so it's Xia. So it's my Chinese name, and then it's _ Mandarin.
So Xiya, XIYA_Mandarin. Okay, got it.
Yes, exactly.
All right, and like I said, we'll put a link in the show notes. So, and that's great. So people can reach out, and you've got some real fun videos as well that you've made there on Instagram, and so you've got some good stuff. So that's excellent. Everyone should go check it out. So, well, Anastasia, well, thanks so much for sharing your story again. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for your invitation, and thank you for this chance to share my story, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for the job that you are making, that you are helping so many people to master Chinese and make it easier. Yeah,
You can learn Chinese. Just takes a little work.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Thanks for listening to the You Can Learn Chinese podcast. I'm Jared Turner, co-founder of Mandarin Companion, alongside my co-host, John Pazin, who's out for this episode, co-founder of Mandarin Companion, founder of Allset Learning, the Chinese Grammar Wiki, and Sinosplice.com. If something in this episode clicked with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share with another Chinese learner. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And don't forget to write us a review. If you haven't tried a graded reader yet, this is your sign. Go grab one of our Mandarin Companion graded readers and start building some real fluency. Apologies to John Cena. We just ran out of time. The You Can Learn Chinese podcast is produced by myself, Jared Turner, and is edited by Jasper Chua. A big thanks to our special guest, Anastasia Tulupova, and of course, thanks to my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, John Pazin. See you next time.